So I have Sammy in the car with me, and we're going for a lunch date. But we thought, since it is all about relationships this month, and I honestly didn't even tell her any questions that I'm going to ask her. I don't even actually know what questions. We'll see where this conversation goes. But why don't you introduce yourself? Just say your first name and your age and your grade.
Sammy, I'm 17 and I'm a junior in high school.
All right. So, as a junior in high school, what is some of the hardest things you're facing?
I don't know, I know a lot of people are stressed for college planning because now's the time to be looking at colleges and getting prepared.
She's uncomfortable a little bit. We'll get her all warmed up because right now I can tell I just put her on the spot because I'm like, hey, we're driving to lunch. Let's actually just have this open conversation like we normally would. But we'll put her on the podcast because I think sometimes kids your age, just to be really honest, for some parents are challenging. Sam and I have a really good relationship. Thankfully, she's always been pretty easy. I feel like you've been a pretty easy kid, but she is a wealth of knowledge. And I want everybody to feel like they can get wisdom. If your kids aren't communicating, maybe Sam can be a voice of what they're really going through. So you're saying they're feeling stressed from college?
That's for some people, it's like you're going down that college path, but I know a lot of people are also just stressed in general, like junior year is pretty hard, just like the testing, and they're trying to prepare you for getting into good colleges and like making sure you're ready for it. And then senior year is like a breeze. So it's like the hardest year, I think most people would agree.
Yeah. What would you say? Okay, so you say the junior year is the hardest. Would you say middle school was hard? And if it was, what was hard about middle school?
I think it depends on if you have friends in middle school, to be honest. Like, I know some people, if you don't have that friend experience, it can be really like awkward because it's an awkward 3 years. And if you don't have that group with you, and then it's also in our it just depends. It wasn't too hard for me, but I know other people say,
If you don't feel like you have friends,
yeah.
what would you tell a parent that's with a child that's struggling? They're like closing down, they're not communicating openly. Is there something bigger going on? Is there some wisdom that you can feel within yourself, maybe of why a child would maybe not open up to their parents? Think about your friends or think about people you know that aren't really opening up to their parents. What would you tell parents? What could they do to help their child open up more?
It depends on your relationship with your kid, because I think the reason why a lot of kids don't open up is there's not a lot of trust there. And some parents, it's, oh, well, I experienced this, and so I don't want you to be like that, which is fine, and I get that. But I also think it creates kind of resentment between the parent and the kid because this is my first time living, and this, I get if you've already experienced it, but the kid needs to experience it for themselves. So it's just not a lot of trust into sharing stuff like that.
Can you think of things that have helped our trust? What has helped us have trust? Because you're pretty open with me, aren't you? Or maybe you're not.
I don't know. I think it just depends. I witnessed it from the other end with Sarah.
Okay, so go ahead and say, yeah.
I don't know, just witnessing that opposite relationship where it was you guys weren't super close and there was a lot of distrust, and then like when you'd find out about things, a lot of tension in between it. And so I think it's just went the other route, which I know can happen.
Okay, she's referring to her older sister because when her older sister was in, I think, eighth grade, there wasn't some trust sometimes because she was doing things that I would get frustrated by. And so then she wouldn't open up. And so we had to really go and figure out how do we rebuild trust. So from a parent's perspective, I just had a lot of communication with her where I'd be like, "Hey, tell me what you're going through." When it was calm, not when we were in the middle of it, not when I was frustrated or she was frustrated. I would have to build that trust during the calmer moments or the times when things were good. And every day, really listening. What is she going through? What does she want to talk about? That was from my vantage point, how I was trying to build trust with her was talking when it was neutral, like really asking her open questions and then saying, "Hey, I really want to build up trust. How do I do that with you?" So, Sam, can you explain to me how you think you and I have trust together?
I don't really know how to answer that. I don't know. It's just very, I don't know. Just do.
We just do?
Yeah, I don't really know.
Okay. Why do you think some parents don't have trust with their kids?
I think it's just a fear thing. It's, oh, if you're gonna strict parents, like if you're gonna berate your kid for trying to do anything, or a lot of people feel it's awkward to have a relationship with their parents. No one's gonna be like, oh, talk about your crush with your parent, or talk about the day to day things and that, just because it's like a disconnect. You see your parents at home, but you have a whole different world at school and sports and jobs, and just it's a different world with your parents not in it.
Ooh, that's a good point. That's actually a really good point. It's a different world without your parents in it. You guys are away from us more than you are with us. Oh, man. I want to ask because this is going to come up. What do you think makes a really good friend? And I'm talking Any general, it doesn't matter what your age is. What do you think makes a really good friend?
It depends on each person what values you want, but definitely I value loyalty and trust, and I just want a fun friend. Some friends are just there to be there for you in times of need and be there when you're happy to, but it's like nice to have a fun friend that you can just go out and just laugh with. But I also like the trust in it and just I don't know, there's a lot of aspects that can make a good friend.
I agree with trust. I think that if you feel like they've got you, like you can share something and they're not going to share it with someone else, and that they, if you're not in a room, they're going to talk highly of you. Or if someone's talking bad about you, they're definitely not joining in. You agree? I want to ask because parents want to know what are some steps or what can parents do to be better parents for teens?
I think there's sometimes a misunderstanding with kids, and I've talked about this before with like in school and with their it was like a community meeting thing. But a lot of the times parents have this idea that teenagers are like rebellious and they can't be trusted. It's just already the stereotype with it. And I think yes, some people fall into that category, but I think it can end up where it's oh, my kid's obviously always assuming the worst. And then it's like a mistrust and it's like there's a misunderstanding. We're like, oh, my kid's always on their phone because there's a conversation we talked about at this open community thing we had and it was like, what, assuming your kid's always just, like, oh, I'm on my phone scrolling when it's some people are answering emails just like parents are. There's always something it's, oh, or my kid's gone out, like they must be doing something sneaky when they could just be doing kids and just hanging out. Like, there's a lot of misassumptions about it. And I feel like some parents just need to like have that understanding and hope you raise a good enough kid that you can trust them.
Ooh, that's actually really good. I actually needed to hear that too. There's because as a parent, sometimes when we don't hear from our kids for like hours on end and it's night, we're like, what are they doing? What are they up to? And so you're just saying, don't assume they're doing something wrong.
Assuming the worst when it's like you could honestly just be sitting in a car talking, which is like 90% of the time what most people, at least in our town, are doing. Is just sitting in a car talking. Cause and I think parents just are assuming like, oh, they haven't texted me back, they haven't done this, and it's just it becomes contentious too if you're like every 2 seconds I have to get on my phone. Like I've had my phone down and I'm just sitting talking and now I have to get on my phone and be like, hey, I'm still here, still just talking. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you like it when parents ask? Do you like it as a teen when parents ask you questions about your life or no?
I think it depends. I know some people if their parents ask, they're not really gonna share. It's just gonna be like a one-word answer, and I know a lot of people fall into that category. I like it personally. It's like an acknowledgement of your day, but I think it also depends on your relationship with your parent.
All right, I want you to fill into this one. There's a child who actually deep down is really good inside. They're a good person and they have all the normal struggles as a typical teen, but they feel like their parents don't trust them. They feel like their parents are always breathing down their necks about grades and about going out and communicating, and they're just not getting along. And that parent really wants to build up a good relationship. Where would that parent start?
I think you just gotta show genuine interest and try to rebuild that trust because if that's the response for your kid is just so disconnected, something I feel like had to have triggered that. Because I know there's a lot of people that are close with their parents too, but there is a lot of disconnect. And I think when there's disconnect, there's always been a breakage of trust earlier in that relationship. So I think it would just be like showing that you're trusted because yes, it's a friend or it's a parent relationship, but it also, if you want it to be good, you can need that kind of friendship because at some point your kid's going to grow up and be an adult and you're going to have an adult to adult relationship. So I think you just got to show what in your mind makes a good friend. Are you listening to what they say and not telling everyone? Some parents are like, oh, I'm going to go tell all the grandparents about this and this. A lot of people share, or I'm going to go tell all the neighborhood community friends about this a part of their life. Are you listening to them? Are you trusting what they want to not be shared? Are you like having fun with them? Are you doing fun things? Or are they just coming home? You're having, maybe if you're even having a family dinner and then just berating them about grades and about doing this and not doing enough. I think it just depends. You have to act like a good friend to your kid if you want that good relationship. And yes, you still need to be a parent, but also you need to treat them how you'd want to be treated.
Wow, that was actually really good, Sam. I have to say that was really good. You said listen, actually listening. A good friend actually listens and not sharing personal information with your best friend or your neighbor or the community or the grandparents. That was really good. And then doing fun things like saying, hey, let's go do this, which thankfully we do, which is amazing. That's why I want to interview you because you're really wise. Is there any apps that parents should be worried about with kids getting on? Is there any apps that we should be concerned with?
I think it depends. Like, Again, I think it's a trust thing because I think any app can go down a bad route. That's just the way social media is, to be honest. But I also think there's a lot of things set in place. Like you can have restricted accounts, you can have a private account. I'm not. I haven't seen anything that would be too alarming.
Norovirus, RSV, flu, HMPV. It feels every day there's another outbreak making headlines. And let's be honest, this winter's not any different.
What's the most addicting app? Is there such a thing? Because TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, any other ones?
Oh yeah, those are like the main. But definitely TikTok. I accidentally deleted it before the ban, and now I miss it a little bit. But
Is it the most addicting, you think?
yeah, because the algorithm is based on like your likes. Like they curate it so that way it's keeps you engaged because it's only 30-second videos mainly. Like there's some long ones, but 30-second videos mainly, and it's just to keep you engaged so you continue scrolling. It's just how the app works. Which Instagram's kind of like that, but it's a little less like that in my mind. Like Instagram Reels are, but I don't know how many people choose Reels over TikTok.
Would you say Snapchat's not that addicting?
For me, no, I definitely use Snapchat, but I'm using it as a form of communication. It's just in my mind, it's like texting because that's how a lot of people, at least in high school, I think I've heard from like college students it does that a little bit, but it's definitely like a way I'm using it to be like, oh, I'm going to communicate this, I'm going to text them this instead of just like actually texting them.
Interesting. Is there something you wish parents would know, or even me as a parent wish I would do or know?
In what
Like
context?
just to be a better parent. Is there something that you wish I would do, or if you've or maybe you've seen other parents. If there's not something you can definitely tell me, but if do you feel like you're noticing anything that parents are doing that you could just be like, "Hey, I'm just noticing this and I think this would be a different way to approach it."
Here, I'll praise you. One thing I do, which I know is also different to the kid, but I appreciate because if I tell you guys, like, hey, I don't really want to go to school today, I'd rather get my work done at home, it's really nice to be able to have that break. Because if you think about it, comparing it to an adult scale, like, if you're at work and you're like, I've been having just like an awful month and I just want one day to just like reset. And I know we get the weekend, but sometimes, like, those weekends, if you have a job or like you're volunteering or you're in a sport, like, they're preoccupied sometimes. And I think it's nice, at least for me, that if I know I just need that day, I can take that day. Which I know a lot of parents don't do because it also depends on grades and how your kid is, but it is nice.
What is the biggest thing on your mind when you're at sleeping at night? What's the biggest stressor for you right now? Oh, is that too personal? I just got a look of that might be too personal. You can say pass on that question.
Pass on that question because I don't think my answer is over connecting to everyone's.
Oh, okay. Okay. I actually know what her bigger stress is. I was wondering if there was a universal one. Do you feel like grades or friends are most stressful for?
I think it depends on what you value. Some kids don't really care about grades, so then maybe friends, and then some kids care more about grades than they do friends. And maybe other things too, like work and stuff.
All right.
But
Can I ask you a world question?
go for it.
From your vantage point, what do you see the world doing? I know you're getting taught certain things like history and current events, but what do you feel that you're noticing from your time on this planet? What's happening in the world?
I don't really want to get political.
You don't have to. You can just describe.
There's definitely like a lot of concern, I think. I think definitely with the younger generation, it seems to be we're more aware of it. Climate change and the environmental factors definitely seem to be a big concern because it feels like people are like, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be dead in 20 years anyway, but it's the rest of the generations I think a lot of people are more concerned about. Yeah, maybe won't affect us, but in 100 years, think about how many animals are going to be extinct. Think about how many carbon emissions there's going to be and rising temperatures. Like you can see it with like winter storms and with California fires, like how much it's really affecting. So it's just a concern, I
That's
think.
what you're seeing in the world.
Yeah, and I just feel like there's people doing this, not doing some, but not enough.
Yeah. Does for kids your age, I don't know if you and your friends talk about it, but do you guys talk about imminent potential of war at all? Is there any feeling of that?
The Russia-Ukraine war has been going on for a little bit. I think it would depend. I don't really like to get super political with my friends and talk about, do you think there's a war coming up? But I don't know. I think it would depend. I think with political leaders, like there's some interesting choices being done, but mm,
I've told my community this, and maybe you don't know this, but I think actually teens are some of the smartest people we have on the planet because you're still young enough to see with newer eyes and not too old to be in a pattern. But I also feel like teens have this internal kind of wisdom and intuition. Do you sense that too? That you have intuition?
Again, I think it's subjective to people. There's that no,
They don't have.
some people aren't really thinking in general, but some people, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So would you agree that teens are smart?
Yeah, I think yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any last parting words to any parents?
Be nicer to your kid.
Be nicer?
Yeah, I think.
And how would they be nicer?
Just treat them a little better. I think you don't know what your kid's really going through. Just as they don't know what you're going through, but it's also be kind. If you've had a bad day at work, don't take it out on your kid.
Wow. And then just be kinder. Treat them like you would want someone to treat you.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty simple but profound at the same time, because I don't know if we all treat our kids with the same respect as we would want.
You don't treat your kid, a lot of people don't treat their kid like how they'd treat some. If you think about it, your kid isn't just some random younger person. Like they are like a person who has thoughts and feelings. Like treat them like with kindness and respect. And it's just like you wouldn't treat like your coworker that way. So why would you treat your kid that way? Like why are you coming home and getting upset with your kid or because you just had a bad day? When it's like you wouldn't go to work and start yelling at your boss and your coworker because you're gonna get fired. Like it's the same concept.
Nice. I love that. I love that. Anything that I can do to be a better parent?
We can discuss that on our own.
Oh, she says that's in private. All right. Thank you for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Always.
Let me know if you want Sammy back. And I'll make her do this with me again. All right. Thanks, you guys, for listening. And I just pray that these kids that we have, they're basically on our team. They are growth partners. I think it's such a noble work to really ensure that this relationship gets stronger and stronger. So sending you all the love as you cultivate this relationship. See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Danette May Show. And the very next episode is going to be about, I'm having my husband on and I'm asking him questions from a man's perspective on what do men want and how to cultivate a strong relationship with your man. So you do not want to miss this. You're going to click that follow button right now so you do not miss when we drop it. And we're going to be dropping 2 episodes in one day. So we're not only going to drop his episode with me, we're going to drop an episode where we're talking about friendships. I interviewed some people. They had questions about work, people that are difficult, friendships where people are ghosting. How do you handle it? We're covering all of that. So you're not going to want to miss all these episodes. Go ahead and click the follow button wherever you're listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.